Well, it's that time of year again. It's tax season, which reminds me I've got to get my information into my accountant. But it got me thinking that we sure pay a lot in taxes, don't we? And are we always sure that we're getting the best value for the money? Because when you think about it, we're paying, of course, income taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, and if you're a renter, you pay your property taxes through your rent. The higher the property taxes go, it's going to have an upward pressure on the rent that you pay. So that's a tax you pay. We have license fees, user charges, utility fees, improvement charges, carbon tax, which is basically just a tax on existence. Just my thought on that. Are we getting good value for it? It chafes a lot of people when you start seeing stories like what we've seen recently here, where in Canada here, our national broadcaster, it was reported, handed out millions of dollars in bonuses. People have to wonder, what was that for? And they're wondering, I didn't get my bonus. And then there's the most egregious one, like this one. And that's where somebody, we're all pretty well sure we know who it was. Let's not kid ourselves, but somebody stayed in a hotel room during the Queen's funeral at a cost of $6,000 per night. The total bill for that came out to something like $30,000. Wait a second. The average person probably pays, just in income tax alone, average income, they might pay $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. So they might be thinking that, well, all of the income taxes that I paid to the federal government last year didn't even pay for that hotel bill. And this is where people start to really get ticked off. Why is the government stonewalling on telling us who was in that room? With a hefty bill like that, you have to wonder. And the problem with this, it's not just that bill on its own, but it's the fact that people start to think that, hey, wait a second, if that kind of stuff is happening and that's what got caught, that's probably just the tip of the iceberg. And what else is getting wasted? And when you look at every corner of government, the question keeps coming back, are we getting good value for our tax dollars? Because when you think about it, if we're paying half of our income to taxes, for the average worker that might work 40 hours a week or whatever, if you're working a lot of overtime, if you're busy, and for those people that work overtime, they know that the government takes a bigger chunk off of those overtime dollars. So at least half of the hours that you're working goes to the government. And everybody accepts that we have to pay something for the services that we get. You know, we don't expect people to pave the roads and patch the potholes for free. We don't expect nurses to staff the hospitals for free. We know that we have to pay something for that. We also want to make sure that are we getting the best value for those dollars? And when you start seeing stuff like that, you start wondering what else is getting wasted out there. And there's people that estimate easily that half the money that goes to government gets wasted. Gets wasted through bloat, through inefficiency, through just mistakes and poor practices, whatever. Some of it, most of it is not, it's not nefarious. A lot of it is just inefficiency. There is some corruption, and there's very little doubt of that. And we've seen that right from the top in our country. Our own Prime Minister has been found to be on the wrong side of a lot of ethical violations, and yet no consequences. So what is that? What kind of example does that filter on through to the rest of the country? You know, it goes towards that thought of, are we really getting the best value? And so when people start to question that, when they start thinking that, wait a second, we're not getting the best value, I'm getting ripped off. Well, what are people going to do then? They're going to try to look for any way possible that they can to save taxes, but there's only so much a person can do within the bounds of the law. If you're a big player, you can offshore some of your activities and then you can save on some taxes that way. But here's the thing, if you're playing within the bounds of the law, it's very limited on what you can do to save taxes, especially as an employee. So that's the rub with a lot of people, is that we're compelled to pay taxes, and when we see it getting wasted and we're forced to paying for it, that starts to piss a lot of people off. We know that there is a certain cost to having the services that we have. Yes, it goes towards a civil society and all that, and we hear that argument all the time. But what's the right value? What's the right price? There is a limit. When we see examples, we see hard examples like a couple that I just mentioned there, that the value is questionable. I mean, that's the low-hanging fruit. So why don't we get rid of the low-hanging fruit first? Let's find out where that waste is, and let's get rid of that. And let's start building some faith in our system to make sure that we feel like we are getting value for the dollar, because a lot of people don't feel like we're getting value for the dollar. When is enough enough? What are your thoughts? Are you paying enough taxes? Do you want to be paying more? Do you think that you're getting good value for your tax dollar? Anyway, share your thoughts. I'm done ranting on that. Let me know what you think. Put your comments below, please, and let's go from there. In the meantime, take care. See you in the next video. Bye for now.